All right, guys, I am live. I get to right away. I'm sorry that I'm solo. I know those who want to see me chat it up with Ben. Ben was supposed to be here for this. This is the Sherdog.com UFC recap show. We're recapping UFC Vegas 39, UFC Dern versus Rodriguez, Rodriguez versus Dern. I was supposed to be joined by Ben Duffy, my normal co-host. He was traveling this week. He was in Salt Lake City on a reunion, 20-year reunion tour with his band, sold out show in Salt Lake City. Unfortunately, he got delayed. He may still jump in. He says he might be home in about an hour. If he does, I'll just have him jump in and pick up where we left off. What that means, we only have 9 fights, so this will be a quicker show. It is a little earlier. It's only 7:23 p.m. on the East Coast. So let's get the chat going. I see some guys in there now. I'm going to really need some back and forth. The recaps are much harder than you think by yourself. I actually think it's actually harder than the preview show. But in the main event, we had Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez, 2 Brazilian fighters. Well, I know Dern has an American-Brazilian connection, but two Brazilian descendants fighting in the main event of the night in the strawweight division. Marina Rodriguez won a unanimous decision. The scorecards were, I believe, was 49-46 across the board, all 3 judges. That's how I had the scorecard. Shout out to Austin is in the chat. Nate's in the chat. Nate's giving credit to Marina Rodriguez for a takedown defense. Austin says he has to make up for. Yeah, don't you ever miss a show, Austin. Make sure you're always in here. So, guys, we're on YouTube. We're in the chats. We'll try to leave comments, questions, whatever you want to talk about. I understand the screen is not as normal as it is. I had to go to a different setting based on Ben not being here. I could have used the same one, but there would have been a line straight down my face, which I'm sure might have been a good thing, but. Let's get into it. Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez won a big showdown. I give, as Nate said, I give Marina Rodriguez a lot of credit. She was taken down in the second round. She, in many people's scorecard, all 3 judges' scorecard, she lost the second round 10-8. Mackenzie Dern, absolute wizard on the ground. We saw that. For her ability to survive on the ground and then really rally, and at that point, once she survived the second round, like, she didn't lose another second of the fight. Oh, no, that's not true. I'm sorry. Late in the 4th round, she was taken down. But other than a late tag down in the 4th round, she dominated the rest of the fight. Really did her best Amanda Hebos impression, the way Amanda Hebos beat Mackenzie Dern. Just stick, move. Don't be a stationary target. Stuff the takedowns where they come in. I thought that Rodriguez gave Dern more opportunities than Hebos did, because she threw a lot more big shots. She wound up on some things. The problem is with Mackenzie Dern, as Arthur Antonio Nguyen, I apologize, Arthur, if I pronounced that last name wrong. Arthur said the same thing that I've been saying. The concern I had with Mackenzie Dern is her wrestling. Like, her wrestling is weak. Now, she's been making improvements in her striking. We didn't see it that much tonight based on facing a much more decorated, much skilled striker, one of the best strikers in the division. Ally Quinta is I don't know if that's the real Ally Quinta, but he's saying he's here. He wants us. He's saying hi. Mackenzie Dern, she's been focusing on her striking with Jason Perillo, which is obviously always a good thing. But if you could give me one option for her, let's go back 3 or 4 fights ago when she never showed anything with her striking, and you said to me, she can either become a really, really good wrestler or a really, really good striker, boxer. I would have said, give me the wrestling, because her way of victory is always to get the fight to the ground. Well, if you could have the greatest jiu-jitsu in the world, which she probably does, if you can't get the fight to the ground, she's gonna have big trouble with a lot of people in the division, and we saw that tonight. Like, I give Marina Rodriguez a lot of credit to survive. The reason why I took Mackenzie Dern, I had a really good night. I went 7-2 on my picks. But the reason why I took Mackenzie Dern is I thought, you can only have one moment on the ground and she could finish it. But what happens if things like this happen, where she does get to the ground and she doesn't find a finish? And she had some slick grappling tonight. I mean, the way in the second round when she had a reverse crucifix and she was going, there was kind of scramble happening and she was manipulating. Paul Felder was talking about how it was bending her arm and she almost had an armbar with her feet. And you could see her grimacing. She's absolutely brilliant. But if you can't get the fight to where you need it, how good can you be? Oh, it's sorry. So it's not Alec Quinta. It's his producer Aaron. Cool. Thanks for joining in. So I don't know who I should focus on because Marina Rodriguez, to me, she was impressive in the fact that she wasn't submitted on the ground. She's always impressive with her striking, but she really played it safe, and I just thought she showed some intelligence. I don't think people will be flawed by her performance tonight, but to me, her intelligence, especially in the fifth round, when she just kept moving and just making herself a moving target, it was really brilliant, and it seems to me like this is going to become a game plan for so many fighters, and it seems like it's kind of an easy thing to accomplish against Mackenzie Dern. Now, tell me if you disagree, if you see, and the chat is buzzing. I'm going to try to keep up. Austin went 8-1. Wow, Austin, 3 weeks in a row. No, we got to get you on the next preview show, my man. If you're going 8-1 3 weeks in a row. One thing I didn't like, so there was moments where Mackenzie Dern was being wild, and sorry, my alarm was going off. I apologize. Mackenzie Dern was getting wild, and Jason Perillo was saying, no, don't reach, don't do this. And I'm like, no, do it, because when she got wild, there was a moment, I think it was in the fourth round, she kind of got wild, and she got a body lock, and she fell over, and Rodriguez fell with her, and they spun, and she ended up right on mount. That's what she needed to do. You don't have to have the best takedown. You don't have to have the Daniel Cormier grab a snatch single, run the pipe. She just needed something to happen. Get two cats fighting, and then somehow, they fall on the ground. That's all she really needed. And to me, where's the Imanari roll? How many times did she have double underhooks? Where's the just jump down to guard? Do anything to get it down to the ground. And I didn't see that from her. And I think of Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall wants to get the fight to the ground. He's going to do everything possible to get there. I didn't see that out of Mackenzie Dern. And she had 25 minutes. And how many times she has no entries. She's only going up a body lock. She's not shooting on the hip. She's not driving through takedowns. She needs to spend more time in the wrestling room than the boxing. You guys are talking about who they want to see these girls fight next. Let's do this. Marina Rodriguez, and me and Ben like to do this, and I don't have my list written down, but Marina Rodriguez, she's on a winning streak now. Let's see how many fights in a row it's been. The chat is booming. I'm trying to talk and read as quick as I can, guys. To try to keep up with you guys. You guys are chatting up. We love seeing that. Bass just jumped in. Bass is talking about baseball tonight. There's also a big boxing match tonight. Don't worry, guys. I'll make sure this is over. I know the main event won't be till midnight, but I'll make sure it's over before it even starts. Marina Rodriguez has now won. I apologize. This is very entertaining. Me trying to delay as I pull up her record. She's won 3 fights in a row. She's won. She only has 1 loss in the UFC. It was a split decision to Coloris. She does have 2 draws against Ronda Marcos and Cynthia Calvillo. People are talking about Weili Zhang and Rose Namajunas, and one thing I always like to do is how far down the phone list is Marina Rodriguez right now? If something happened to Weili Zhang where she couldn't fight Rose Namajunas, they're calling in the replacement. I would assume Carlos Esparza, who a lot of people believe should have got the title fight over Weili Zhang. I'm assuming she gets the first call. Is Marina Rodriguez a second call? I mean, if for some reason, if Carlos Esparza couldn't take the fight, is she that close to a title shot? Because I can't think of somebody else who would be over her right now. Do you? Anybody? Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Austin just throws out that Carla has to get the next shot after that. Yeah, I agree for sure. Carla is the first one, but is she the second call? Is there anybody else that I'm not thinking of that would jump over Marina? It doesn't seem like anybody out there. So let's do this. So assuming that Marina Rodriguez is not getting a title shot, she has to fight again before she gets the title. I want to see her. I mean, we've seen her. She's got a lot of wrestlers. A lot of people want to take her down. I want to see someone who's going to willing to strike with her. And I'm going to go up in the chat a little bit, see if I can find it real quick. Somebody else threw out the matchup that I would like to do. But what I'd like you guys to do, throw out there who you want to see Marina Rodriguez. If you're running the UFC, you're the ultimate emperor. You're the dictator. There's no, I have to negotiate with this team. That just simply, you're in charge. You say who fights who next. I'm putting Marina Rodriguez versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, former champion. There's somebody else who put that in the chat. I'm trying to scroll real quick, trying to find who that was. Arthur Antonio Nguyen threw that out. Who else would you guys like to see? Like, that's the matchup I think that'd be really fun. Arthur threw it out there again. Is there anybody else like that you would like if I don't know how many guys are in the chat. If we're sitting around, we're running the UFC. We're at the big long table. We say, hey guys, all right, Marina Rodriguez, who are we doing next with her? Arthur's going with JJ. I'm going JJ. Austin's throwing out the loser of the title shot between Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang. So now we got two options. What else we got? Anybody else throwing anything out there that we think should be the matchup? Or, I mean, it's 2-1 votes for JJ. Anybody else got anything else? Bass is saying, Bass is saying he think he's something a little easier for JJ than for Marina Rodriguez. I get that. I'm going with Marina Rodriguez. Now let's go to Mackenzie Dern, because to Mackenzie Dern, yeah, she was pretty much in the same area that Marina Rodriguez was heading into this, but to me, she showed still a huge gap in her game. Actually really two. One, she's not that good of a striker yet, but even more so that she's not a good wrestler. Like, if you kind of categorize MMA and say, like, sections, striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, she's only got a check mark in one of them. Now, that one is off the charts. It's a 10 out of 10. It's, if we had the video game of her and it's jiu-jitsu, it's 10 out of 10, but wrestling's like a 2. The striking's like a 4, So to me, this showed me tonight that Mackenzie Dern is not an elite fighter yet. Like, she has a huge hole. She needs to take a step back. The person I'm matching her with kind of fits in the same realm. And I don't think it's from lack of trying. I mean, you look at Mackenzie Dern, she's had a baby, and her body looks better after the baby than it did before. I mean, you see her arms today, her arms are ripped up. She used to, when she first came to the UFC, she had a little bit of cushion in the stomach. That's gone. I mean, she's got ripped up abs. I mean, she's in incredible shape. She just went 25 minutes. She had moments of slowing down, but she was still throwing hard. And so the matchup I would do is I'd go with Angela Hill, because when you fight in a main event, you've kind of put yourself up in a position where it's kind of hard to go down, where you're facing up and comers or especially your next fight. Now, if she loses 3-4 in a row, she could be facing much more further down. But to me, she still has to face another name. And Angela Hill is the matchup I would do. Austin throws out Michelle Waterson. Bass throws out Michelle Waterson. I feel the same way about Mackenzie Dern right now than I do as Bass felt about Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Like, he's saying, get Joanna an easier name and or easier fight than Marina Rodriguez. I feel the same way with Mackenzie Dern. Like, I don't know if she could beat Michelle Waterson right now. I'm trying to get her an easier name. I'm trying to go against someone that showed holes in the ground. Arthur Zona, Amanda Hebus. I am not touching Amanda Hebus. If I'm Mackenzie Dern's corner, also if I'm in the UFC, I'm thinking about it is Mackenzie Dern is a very marketable fighter. She's a world champion in jiu-jitsu. She's a mother. she's attractive. Like she's still fairly young. I think she's 27 or 28. I think they said 28 tonight. I'm still trying. I still see some star potential in her. I'm trying to get her a much easier fight, so that's why I'm going with Angela Hill. Bass is agreeing. He's saying that she could be a huge star. Yeah, imagine if she won tonight. Imagine in the second round if she finished when she was going with that armbar, where Marina Rodriguez's arm was stuck with her feet, and say she just kept turning her feet, and she submitted her. Could you imagine what we would be talking about right now, Mackenzie Dern? We'd be talking about a title shot. We'd be talking about what happens if she gets Rose Namajunas on the ground. What happens if she gets Weili Zhang or insert whoever you want. That's what we'd be talking about right now. And people would be going crazy about it. It'd be, when Brian Ortega's rise up in the UFC rankings, he was submitting everybody. It'd be something like that. It would be in the promos, but that didn't happen. To me, it's the complete opposite. I always like to ask, and this is something I used to do when I did the recap show with John Franklin, was like, did the UFC win tonight? And I don't think the UFC did. Or one thing we like to say, like, the person the UFC was rooting for won tonight, and that's not, no. Marina Rodriguez is not who they want. They wanted Mackenzie Dern to win. But I don't know. I don't know if she's still young and there's still areas of growth, but wrestling is the one that it's really, Bass is throwing out Jordan Levitt, like that has that Jordan Levitt type feel, where if you can't get it down, then you're in big trouble. I tend to give fighters at this age a little bit of rope, but wrestling is never really the field. Offensive wrestling is never the area where I see a lot of improvement. It's not often you see a guy who can't offensive wrestle, or a guy, girl, fighter in general, that you see them make improvements. It's usually the defensive wrestling, because it's just like it's a lot smaller of a what's the word I'm looking for? Steps is less steps to takedown defense. It's hip position, head position. Forcing the head down, balancing your weight, hip control. While offensive wrestling, it's chain takedowns, it's setups, it's driving through, it's not telegraphing. There's a lot more to offensive wrestling. That's why you don't see a lot of fighters when they first join the UFC that really aren't that good of an offensive wrestler suddenly become a good offensive wrestler. It doesn't really happen. I mean, I'm sure there's one or two out there. That's why I'm so concerned about Mackenzie Dern. Like, I kind of think we might have saw her ceiling. Like, her ceiling might be Nina Ansaroff. Like, beating Ansaroff might be her ceiling. Like, I'm not saying she won't beat other fighters that same, but like, I don't think she's getting past that level she was heading into the UFC. And Ben likes to make funny. I like to live in the moment. I like to overreact, but also I think it makes the recap show a little bit fun if we like take harsh conclusions. I'm going with Angela Hill. I saw Michelle Waterson. Anybody else? We're closing up the talk of who Mackenzie Dern should be matched with next. Anybody else want to throw a name out there they'd like to see? Bass is kind of backing up my point that it's more about marketing fights, not necessarily fighting the best. Me and Ben kind of have a different way of this. Ben looks at he's more of a purist in the sense of Andre just jumped in, happy for his fellow country woman, Marina Rodriguez. Ben has a purist in him where he likes to match up the best fighters or where they are skill-wise. What I try to do, I look at more of a promotional sense. Sometimes I want to give a fighter a win in a favorable matchup. Sometimes I want to build a up-and-comer, offer somebody's name. I mean, I don't want to rant again, but like the whole Nick Diaz, I was like the only person on earth that's saying Robbie Lawler wasn't the matchup to make, that build the next future star. That's what I was saying. Shemaev should have been the guy, That's that's where it seems like me and Bass. Nate Thorpe is throwing out Jessica Andrade. I don't know if that's just he asked, is she done with 115? Two parts to that. I don't know if that's simply a question, like just throwing out, asking in general, is she done with 115? She said in her last fight that she'll fight any weight class, so I don't think 115 is totally out of the picture. if he was throwing her as a possible opponent for Mackenzie Dern, I can't think of a worse stylist matchup than Jessica Andrade. One who obviously has really good takedown defense, also hits like a truck. I wouldn't want to do that. Devo goes fishing, jumped in the chat. Good to see Devo. Bass and Austin kind of going at it a little bit over best versus prospect. So let's move on, guys. That's the main event. The co-main event had a lot of heat that kind of generated from yesterday morning with Jared Gooden missing weight. Jared Gooden missed by 3.5 pounds. Rainey Brown went on Twitter. His tweet, he basically complained about the guy missing weight and he only gets 20%, and basically mentioned like, hey, this guy's on his third UFC fight or whatever it was. They don't make that much money, so I'm not being rewarded that much for this guy to miss weight and kind of have the advantage of not having to suck himself down. That got tweeted out. It seemed like there was a lot of animosity between these two guys heading in. Afterwards, they obviously squashed it. Rainey Brown won a unanimous decision over Jared Gooden. I'll say this about Rainey Brown. Andre's throwing out Claudia Gadelia. I'm still going lower than that, Andre. I went all the way down to Angel Hill, but Austin said 4 pounds. I thought it was 3.5. I think it was, but it might have been 4 pounds if it was. I thought he weighed in at 174.5, which would be 3.5 pounds over the 171 limit. But I could be wrong. But before we actually talk about the fight, I 100% agree with Rainey Brown. 100% agree. It's one of these ones that's tough because the fighter who didn't make weight, his opponent is in such a tough position because they want to get paid. They have win bonuses. The internet is going to call him a wimp, a pussy, all this stuff, which is absolutely insanity when you think these guys fight the best fighters in the world. So Austin says the graphic, I'm assuming he's talking about the UFC graphic, is 174, which would be 3 pounds over the. I think Rainey Brown put up 4.5 pounds instead of 3.5. Either way, it doesn't matter. 3.5, 4. He missed the weight. I feel like the fighters are always in such a tough position because you've been training 8 weeks. It's not a football game or a basketball game. Like a basketball team, they lose on Tuesday, they have another game Thursday, or baseball team lose Wednesday, they got a game Thursday. A fighter, it's tough. And it's also different because the Boston Red Sox don't get all geared up to play the Orioles on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they play the Orioles again. It's not like you're not thinking 8 weeks ahead, 10 weeks, 12 weeks ahead, thinking about the same person, studying their film, planning for them. I think about like an NFL team will spend a week planning for a team, and that's a big anticipation. Imagine like 8 weeks planning for one single team. That's what these fighters go through, and then you have idiots on the internet calling them wimps if they don't accept a fight for a guy missing weight. And I think Rainey Brown made a good point. Like, taking 20%, it's tough because I know the other fighter is really, a lot of the guys, 20% is crushing to them. They're already underpaid. I don't know if the 20%, I don't know if that is the best punishment. I don't really know, and I wasn't planning on talking about this. I'm just kind of, we have more time on our hands being that Ben's not here. I'm just kind of brainstorming. I don't know what you guys, what do you think would be the best punishment for someone missing weight that would punish the fighter that missed weight but also reward his opponent? I've seen people throw out starting off like down a point in the first round. I don't like that idea, but if you guys have any ideas, throw it out there in the chat. I'll try to throw some out there. As far as the X's and O's of this fight, Rainey Brown is a dog, and I mean that in the best way possible, the best compliment. His legs were battered. Apparently, he claims he dislocated a foot very early in the fight. Dislocated a toe, his big toe, very early in the fight. Jared Gooden was kicking off his skinny legs, and he just dug deep. And what I loved is how he disguised the leg kicks, because you could see it in the broadcast, but the leg kicks that he faked, like that it weren't really bothering him, and then he just kept. What I loved is the variety in his strikes. Like he'd throw a body kick, then he'd throw a high kick, then he'd throw a long jab, then he'd throw a combination. He'd clinch. He just had Jared Gooden guessing the whole time, and he just cruised to a unanimous decision victory. Randy Brown has shown that he is upper echelon in the division. Like I don't know if he's top 15, but he's on that next tier right outside. And another good victory. I'll talk about this. I'll talk about who I would have him fight next. I think he deserves. He's on a co-main event. I think he deserves a top 15 guy. Not a guy high in the rankings, maybe near the bottom, or somebody maybe who's lost a couple. So the name I thought of, a guy that he's in the top 15, he's lost a couple. Jeff Neal. I would like to see Randy Brown take Jeff Neal. I don't know if that's a good stylistic matchup for him, but I think that's a guy that, to me, is like that guy needs to fight for his spot. He needs to prove that he's still 15. And Randy Brown, if someone's knocking on the door, well, the guy who's fighting for the end of his spot, 14, 15, those guys need to answer the door. That's the matchup I would do. I saw, I want to get, whose name was it? Nate Thorpe threw out Nico Price. Obviously, we had that incredible knockout from Nico Price, one of the most memorable knockouts of all time against Randy Brown, where he was on bottom, he was throwing hammer fists up. I don't know if I don't really throw rematches so much, but there's an intriguing story to that, so I don't mind that idea, Nate. Couple other, let's see, there's anybody else throw any names for Randy Brown? I'm sure my Neal, Austin's agreeing with me with Neal. I'm okay with like a Bilal Muhammad, another guy that's near there. Like those guys, little on the outside. I'm not talking about your Vicente Liques and your Gilbert Burns and those guys. Some of the guys throwing out what should happen if someone misses weight. The guys are harsh. Big T. I'm sorry, man. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that name, but Big T. It seems like it's super easy too, but I don't want to insult you. Big T said banned from MMA. So there you go. If you miss weight and Big T is in charge of MMA, then that's it. You got to go to bare knuckle boxing. You got to go jiu-jitsu boxing, something like that. You are out of MMA if Big T rules the MMA world. Austin throwing out 50% of the purse. Man, these guys are harsh. I get it, man. Like I really don't know how I feel what a punishment would be, but I agree that there needs to be some kind of punishment. Austin throwing out Santiago Ponzinibbio. Yeah, he's coming off a big win. That would be an intriguing fight stylistically. That'd be fun. Speaking of stylistic fights, I want to get to the fight that we had tonight, flyweight fight, the fight that I thought would be the best matchup. Can I do this? Andre, you did this last week. Andre, are you still out there? If you're still in the chat, Andre, let me know if you're still in the chat. I want to ask you a question. I want to see if you'll do a favor for me, Andre, if you're still in the chat. I'll give you a minute to respond. But we had in a flyweight matchup between Tim Elliott versus Matthias Nikolao. Matthias Nikolao won a unanimous decision. Let me know who you guys. This was one of the fights that was very close. I think Tim Elliott in his corner seemed very upset about him not winning the decision. I scored it for Matthias Nikolao. I had it 29-28. Tell me how you guys scored it. Did you give it to Elliott? Did you give it to Nikolao? I feel like I'm glad the judges weren't tricked by all of Tim Elliott's movement. He has all this awkward movement. So I glad like his output. There was a lot of output from Tim Elliott, but I don't think it was effective output. So I like that Tim Elliott didn't trick the judges. I understand that Tim Elliott is really hard to fight because he's so unpredictable, and it seemed like Nikolao was. Bass also gave it to Nikolao. It seemed like Nikolao was really. He was really hard to. In the first round to pick up what Tim Elliott was doing. But once he started about the second round, he started picking up the timing a little bit, started finding his own range. And I love that he started going to the body. Paul Felder mentioned this, just a really good strategy. All these guys can move around so much. The head is moving so much, but obviously the body is a lot, doesn't sway as far. He started ripping the body. I think that was absolutely brilliant from Nikolao. I loved the end in the third round when Tim Elliott, he was the guy who kept trying to wrestle. He did take down Nikolao once. I saw that it was his 50th takedown in the UFC. Now I think they said 24 fighters have done that, so that's a pretty cool accomplishment for Tim Elliott. But I love that Nikolao got a takedown late. And the way he set it up, it was perfect timing because every time he threw at Elliott would do this big pull his head back. Well, when you're doing that, all your weight is going back. He threw a big thing. It looked like he just set it up so Elliott would pull back, and all he did was follow right into a takedown, having Elliott's weight going back. So his head's going back, his legs are still stationary, and then right underneath him. And then I didn't really like the Paul Felder. I thought Paul Felder was great tonight. I think he's great every night. He's absolutely one of the best. But one thing Paul Felder pointed out was like, I don't like that Tim Elliott is not like trying to scramble back up, like make something happen. It's a very close fight, and you're going to spend the last 2.5 minutes, whatever it was, on the ground with your back, your shoulders pinned, throwing the old Royce Gracie heel kicks to the lower back. I thought it was a really, really bad IQ from Tim Elliott. And, yeah, I didn't see the controversy. It seemed like everyone else is in agreement here that so far it seemed like everyone had Nikolao in a close fight. I said it was going to be a very Tim Elliott type split decision where he does enough to make it seem that he won. I didn't get the right of a split decision as all three judges gave it to Nikolao. I think it's time for Nikolao to face a top 10 guy. I like Nikolao. He's a guy that he's a guy that I've liked a lot. I think he's well rounded, which obviously you have to be a flyweight. Austin's throwing out that his corner was throwing out saying he's up 2-0. He said bad coaching. I agree. Randy Brown's corner did the opposite. Randy Brown said, hey, it's 1-1 heading into the third, but most of us had him up 2-0. Even my guys asked me, do I think you're winning? I'm going to tell the truth, but I'm also going to say, like, because I don't want them to, if something's working or whatever, I still want to give them the best strategy heading to the third. But I don't want to be like, hey, yeah, you're definitely up 2-0, and then he starts slowing down. I'm going to say, I think you're winning 2-0, but it could be 1-1, man. Like, we need this round. That's the advice I'm telling. Like, don't leave it up to judges or don't play it safe here. Like, we need to win this round. Like, that's the advice I'm giving. Now, James Krause was the one in this corner. I think James Krause is one of the greatest coaches in MMA. I really think he's right. I just think that advice in that moment right then, I agree with Austin. I think that was really, really, really bad advice. So Nikola's a guy I like. I want to see him face a top 10 guy, and I thought of the Alex Perez Matt Snell winner. Like, I think he deserves that big of a fight against a guy like Alex Perez who's fought for the title. That's what I would do. Anybody else have a matchup for Nikolao, what they'd like to see this guy move forward? I mean, he's got a great record in the UFC. What you'd like, and then we'll move on. We'll do the rest of the card a little bit quicker than we did these ones. Can I get one volunteer that will look up the awards, but don't announce the awards? See how close I can be from guessing them. If there's awards already announced for the night, anybody want to look them up for us? Anybody want to volunteer and do that? And then we'll see if I can get them right. I swear I don't like this little thing that me and Ben like to do. Anybody want to look them up for me? If they do, just put it out there. You'll do it. I'm sure someone will step up. While we're doing that, a really intriguing striking battle between Sabita Mazu and Maria. I want to pronounce it the way they kept stressing it. Agape, I think that's how Anik said it. He stressed on the broadcast that they were studying it, and then he said it the wrong way. But to me, so Austin doesn't want to look it up either. He doesn't want to volunteer because he also likes to guess. How about we do this? Yeah, where's Andre when we need him? That's why, Mary, that's what I was asking. All right, so Bass has him. So Bass comes through. Bass, don't announce it. Let's do this. So Austin likes to guess. I like to guess. Everyone else would strictly honor system. We're all friends here. One thing I love about this recap show is everyone's really respectful. Nobody's a dick. I never see anybody swearing at each other, saying you guys are all idiots, noobs, and all this nonsense. There's no fight in the night and only 2 bonuses. So Bass gives us a hint Okay. All right, I'm going to guess, and then, Bass, I'll announce to you when I'll announce I'll ask Bass to announce it. We'll get as many guesses as we can. I'm going to say that so there's only 2 performances. I will say that Lupe Guinez, guys, you know I struggle with her last name. Lupe Godinez. I'm going to throw her name out there. I thought she was incredible tonight. And I'm stuck between Agapova and Alexander Romanoff. I'll throw Romanoff. I'll say Romanoff and Lupe. There is a fight of the night. Oh, I apologize. The fight of the night, I'm going to say Elliott and Nikolao. That's why I was asked. I'm going to say Elliott and Nikolao is my fight of the night. I'm going to say Romanoff, and I'm going to say Guinez. Anybody else have any guesses? I know Austin. Let's see. Austin threw his out. Rosa Jackson for fight of the night. That's a good pick. Performance nights, Agapova and Ludi. So we agreed on one of them. Fight of the night was a good pick. Mary, so everyone's saying Agapova for sure. So I left her out of my list. To me, there's 3. There's only 3 to pick from. Andrea is saying Brown versus Good. I don't know if Anders Radama. I apologize if I said your name wrong. Andre. Oh, sorry. So Andre went back to hear what we were saying. So we don't have the bonuses, but Bass looked it up for us. I'm assuming we're going strictly honor system, seeing what we can guess. Big T throws out Nikolao versus David Devorak. Love for that fight. That's a good idea. That works for me, man. That's a good one. Yeah, honestly, the top of the flyweight. The thing about flyweight, it's hard to make a bad matchup because everybody's so well-rounded, so good, and that's why it's one of my favorite divisions. That's why it seems like every single fight card, when I'm making predictions, I tend to pick that as my fight of the night is flyweight. We got all the guesses in. I think it's time. Bass, let us know what was the awards. That was some, Rose Jackson, that was really fun grappling matchup with some good scrambles. I think you might be right, Austin. That was a good call on as Rose Damien Jackson as the fight of the night. I went with Elliott versus Nikolao, but there's a couple of ones. Randy Brown versus Jared Gooden was fun. We're waiting in anticipation for Bass to let us know who won. Let's see. I think you guys might be right about Agapova, of her winning, and we're going to jump back into that fight in a second. So, fight of the night, the main event, Dern versus Rodriguez. The bonuses, Godinez and Agapova. So, if I was running the UFC, I only had one right, Godinez. I'm glad that Godinez got a bonus, being that it was so early in the night, so early in the evening. Oh, really, it was started at 2 in the afternoon. I'm glad that. Andre. I don't know if Andre's saying first time ever all bonuses were to women. I don't know if he's guessing that or if he's saying Andre, is that a fact? Or are you just throwing that? Are you just guessing that that's the first time ever? Either way, that is kind of cool if all the bonuses were to women. I disagree about the main event. I get there was some exciting times, but overall, I don't think it'd be a fight that we remember in either one. The UFC posted. Okay, so Andre put it out there. The UFC did post it. I wasn't sure. I'm sure Jay Petrie would have been all over that, but Andre is another Jay Petrie with the facts. So let's get to Agapova versus Sabita Mazu. This was one of the fights that I had the hardest time picking, and what a one-sided whooping where this was. Agapova was an absolutely incredible showing. I mean, I'm actually, I'm glad that she won it because of. I'm glad that she won it over Romanoff because Romanoff, we knew that he was a bad stylistic for Vandera. I wasn't sure about Mazu versus Agapova. It was a much more evenly balanced fight that we thought we were going to have, and Agapova just put on a show. She had a clear speed advantage. She had clear power advantage. She had some real snap on her punches. She was very accurate. She was pulling. Sabita Mazu made no adjustments to. Agapova was using her movement to kind of. What happened is Mazu was following her, and then suddenly Agape would stop, pop, and then get out of the way before the counters. Really, really impressive. She kept doing it until eventually she just found the kill switch on Mazu, dropped her, jumped on her back, subbed her. Your classic, that's your club and sub. I love that. It seemed like Mazu didn't even hit the ground yet, and Agape was already jumping on her back, hooks in under the throat immediately. Really, really, really impressive performance. To me, when I go back, like I feel like when I think about Agape, 2 or 3 years from now, we're gonna say she lost to Shayna Dobson, and we're gonna be like, it's gonna be one of those like head scratches. It's gonna be one of those, wow, Dennis Hallman beat Matt Hughes twice. It's gonna be one of those where you're like, wow, remember this guy beat that guy? You know, Pete Williams beat Mark Coleman or something like that. Like that's why I feel like it might be like Agape. Now I'm not saying Agape is going to be a UFC Hall of Famer like Mark Coleman and Matt Hughes. I was just kind of using examples of. I'm sure there's other. I don't know if you guys can think of examples of one of those ones that's just a head scratcher early in the UFC career. So and so beats so and so, and then years later we're like. Stefan Struve beating Stipe Miocic is another example of one of those. Wow, that actually happened. Like I feel like that's what's going to be the case from Agape because she showed a lot of skills. Now I'm not saying she's going to win the title or anything like that. I saw her at a Bellator recently. She was cornering someone. I forgot who she was cornering, and I saw her in person. She's very imposing. Like she had like a cut off shirt and her arms were ripped up, and I'm like, oh my god, this girl is for a lower weight class girl. I mean, she's ripped. But yeah, it seemed like I'm reading people's comments. Austin saying that moment in her career woke her up. Like I think that's a good way to phrase it. Arthur saying against Dobson, she blew her load. I definitely think it's one of those fights when when a fighter says, "Oh, losing to this person was the best thing that happened to me." Like I don't know if losing a fight is the best thing that happened to you, but I definitely think it is one of those. Like there's some you lose and you don't really learn from. I definitely think that the Dobson fight is one that you learn from, and I agree with what it seems like everyone's saying the same thing. That this was one of those moments where Bass threw the perfect example. Alexis Davis beat Amanda Nunes. That's a good example. So, yeah, I'm glad that got – now that I think about it, I think she was one of the stars tonight. A really good performance. And kicking off the main card, we had Chris Gutierrez versus Felipe Coloris. Gutierrez won by split decision. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw this out to you guys. One of the judges gave a scorecard to Felipe Coloris. What I want to do is I want to ask a question. Did anybody else throw a scorecard out to Felipe Coloris? But before I do, if someone did – let's not call him an idiot or you're blind. You don't know how to score. Like we don't do this in this group. But if you do, tell us why. I didn't like it. I thought Gutierrez won. I scored all 3 rounds for Gutierrez. I thought the second and third was clearly his rounds. But if there's anybody who did score for Coloris, just throw it out there. Like we're all cool. Like we get it. I didn't like that. I thought Paul Felder called this fight commentary too perfectly when he said early in the fight the difference in this fight is going to be the boxing, because he said that the kicking was pretty much going to cancel it out, and then it was going to be whoever's boxing won. And I actually think that's what happened with Gutierrez. One, he started finding his range, similar to Nikolao, where Nikolao started finding his range about the second round. Same thing with Gutierrez. And then we saw in the second, third round, we saw him moving forward a lot more. Then the first round, he kind of was backing up all the way. Bass is thrown out there. Okay, so I think Bass is saying so I don't think Bass is giving a scorecard to Coloris, but I think he's saying if you were going to score it, then maybe you gave the second round to Coloris. Okay, fair enough. I didn't. I gave it to Gutierrez, but yeah. Anders is saying the main aggressor. Well, Coloris was moving forward. He was throwing a lot of clicks. And Coloris, to me, and I've said this in the previews, Coloris is a guy that he doesn't have a lot of skills, but he gets everything out of his skills as possible. His best avenue victory is forcing his opponent in his back foot, throwing a lot of kicks, and just out volume his opponents. His pressure broke Luke Saunders, if you go back to that fight, like that's what he was trying to do to Gutierrez. The problem is Gutierrez was throwing more back at him. He was landing cleaner shots, especially in the second round. And there's a lot more variety. There'd be a jab, then there'd be a hook, there'd be a check hook. He'd come down to the body. He threw some calf kicks himself. Not enough calf kicks, not enough leg kicks. They actually pointed out in the broadcast. But Gutierrez just had him guessing. And Felipe Coloris, Felipe Coloris to me is like a magician that has one or two really good tricks, and they go to those tricks every while. And that's cool if you're going on, the Tonight Show and you have a 10-minute slot to fill, like, cool. But if you're going to be at Vegas and you have an hour show, you're going to need more than two good tricks. And that's kind of like what Coloris is. Like, he's got some pretty good tricks, but if you went to a Chris Angel show or Dave Blaine or whatever magician, if they only had two tricks, you're probably not going a second time. Austin said he did a tape study. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, so Austin's saying Coloris checked some of the Gutierrez's kicks, and that's why he stopped throwing. Yep, that's good. That's a good point. Good point on that. Before that, Alex Romanoff versus Jared Vanderaa. Romanoff. I think everybody's take on this fight was this was a mismatch, that the styles of these two guys, what Vanderaa does well, Romanoff does better. A lot of Vandeرا's game is clinching, chest to chest. That is Romanoff's world. On the feet, I thought Romanoff did better on the feet than we've seen, but once he's turned into wrestling where he takes you down, if Romanoff takes you down, you're in some big, big trouble. He does everything smart on the ground. He controls position before he moves to a better position, but then when he moves to a better position, then he starts landing punches. He keeps you pinned. Both shows a match. You can't scramble, and he's just a mauler on the ground. And we saw that. He's 15-0. He's 5-0 in the UFC. He definitely needs is he 5-4 or 5-0? I apologize. He might be 4-0 in the UFC. I'll look it up right now. To me, going from Juan Espina to Jared Vanderaa was actually that's the matchup. If he lost to Juan Espina, that's when you fight Jared Vanderaa. When you lose to Juan Espina, not when you win. When you beat Juan Espina, you don't move down to Jared Vanderaa. I thought that was really weird. I feel like he should be moving up. And now, he's 15-0. He is okay. Austin threw out that he's 5-0 in the UFC. He needs a top 15 guy, and this is what I'm going to say. I don't know how I feel about this guy, and what I'm going to say about that is, I don't know if he's had a tough stylistic matchup yet. I also don't. Oh no! So Austin's saying he's only 4-0 in the UFC. Okay, so he's 4-0 in the UFC. Yeah, okay, yeah, I just pulled up his record. He's beat. Okay, so this is why I don't know how I feel about this guy. Roque Martinez, Marcos Rogério de Lima, Juan Espino, and Jared Vanderaa. Now, I know the argument is you can only beat the guys you can put in front of you. I get that. I'm on the fence with this guy. I am not saying I believe in him. I'm not saying I don't believe in him. I just don't know if he'd have the same balls if he was 14-1. If Juan Espino got the decision in a very close fight as that one, would we still be excited about him beating up Jared Vanderaa than we were when I was on Twitter and I was seeing what people's reactions seemed like everyone was ready to crown this guy. I seen people throwing him out there where the Chris Dawkinses and Tom Espinals and those guys have beaten much, much better competition than this guy. So I'm on the fence. Let me ask you this question. And it was a very good performance for him. It was what, I had a good night. I felt like it was one of the fights I picked pretty good. He's going to get him down. He's just got them all Sergey Spivak did it, and he's a bigger, stronger wrestler than Sergey Spivak. And that's actually who I'd put him against next. Like I said, he's a top 15 fighter. Let's put him against Sergey Spivak. That fight makes sense. If throughout there, two questions for you guys. One, who should he fight next? And then tell me just simply, believe, don't believe. Do you believe this guy's the real deal? I'm not saying he has to win the title. I'm not saying he's going to be undefeated. He's going to be Habib for the rest of his career. Simply, whatever. If you got to put him in one box, however you want to put it, you put him in this guy's really good. He's going to be top 10 guy. He's going to be really good. Or, nah, I'm not believing him. I don't think he's that talented. Just give me that. Give me the matchup. Believe, don't believe. Austin's like me. He's on the fence. Okay, so I'll do this. So I'm not going to be a cow. I don't believe. I'm not sold yet. I believe in, like, Tom Aspinall. That's a guy I believe in way more than him. Chris Dawkins, I believe more in him. I don't believe in him yet. So I'm going to be in the I don't believe. But I'm going to play yet, where one really impressive win, I might sneak out the back door and sneak into the believe. Where are you guys? Are you in the believe? Are you in the not believe? Seemed like Austin was jumping in the not believe. Andre's saying Tom Aspinall. He threw Tom Aspinall as a possible opponent. I do not believe he can strike against him at all. I'm assuming he, as in he, when he's saying he, as in Romanoff, cannot strike with Aspinall. I'm assuming that's what he means. And he's saying that he'd probably have more trouble with takedowns. Bass throwing Shamil Abdurrahimov or Alexei Oleinik. Yeah, both those work for me. Alexei's kind of tough at this point. Okay, all right. So Real News MMA is saying that he's disagreeing with me. He thinks Juan Espinal was a bad matchup for Romano. I get that. They're saying, like, because he's a strong takedown defense. I should have said bad matchup. I should have said more of a topper, like a top guy. Like, he hasn't faced a guy that I'm really impressed with. Like, I don't believe in Juan Espinal either. Like, I think he could be a top 20 guy, maybe borderline top 15, but I don't think he's special. I don't think he's elite. So I'm not believing. It seems in Anders Radama. I apologize if I said your name wrong. No disrespect. He seems like Tom Aspinall would lump him up. Bass doesn't want the Spivak fight, so he disagrees with me there. So it seems like Real News MMA is believing him, saying basically they don't believe anybody else could handle his grappling besides maybe until he reaches all the way up to number 4, Curtis Blades. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. Austin saying give Walt Harris. That was the name I was looking at, and I actually think that's I like that matchup. Austin Walt Harris for many reasons. One, he's going against a guy who's quicker than him, and going against a guy who's a better athlete than him, a guy who's had much better experience, bigger experience. I like that. But I also like that there's a clear path to beating Walt Harris. I mean, the clear path we've seen many times. Take Walt Harris down, Alistair over him. Take him down, hold him down, beat him up, wear him out, get the victory. Bass is disagreeing. He thinks Juan Espino is pretty good. Okay, that's. I mean, I'm not anti Juan Espino. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I think Juan Espino, that's probably a pretty good win. But he wasn't impressive. Like, he won. It was a very close fight. He wasn't mauling. So all right. So you guys are on. It seems like we're kind of split in the chat. Some people are really onto Romanoff. I'm not sold yet. Dan Alves is throwing out. Dan just jumped in the chat. Aspinall and Chris Dawkins top contenders right now. I think a Lewis matchup is bad for Dawkins to be. Yeah, that was. I think was that the fight that I threw out there for Chris Dawkins next. We got Houston's own Derek Lewis. Speaking of Houston, if you guys who just joined in now, you might be saying, hey, where's Ben? Ben was traveling this week. He was supposed to be back. I think he had some travel delays. He actually still said he might jump in, so maybe we might get 5-10 minutes out of him. But that's Houston's own. Speaking of Houston, we got to go to Boston's own, where I'm from. I'm not from Boston, but I'm close enough. Charles Rosa versus Damien Jackson. This was a fun fight. This didn't get fight of the night, but I forgot who. I think it was Mary. I forgot who threw out there. Maybe it was Austin that said this was their fight of the night. Yeah, this was a fun fight. We had some really fun scrambles. Damien just has smart pressure. He just stays busy, gets you forcing your back on your back foot, where it's much harder to wrestle. You need to be up on your front foot to wrestle, forcing Charles Rosa on his back foot. Takedowns, ground control, secured positions. Really, really good showing from Damien Jackson. And Charles Rosa, well, let's go. Let's go on the third round. The cut. There was a really big cut on the side of Damien Jackson. It looked really bad. The way the blood was pouring, you saw this. I mean, you saw a stained canvas for the rest of the night. It was all over the place. When he got up and I saw this huge gash, I was really, really worried that the doctor was going to stop the fight. The doctor went in and looked at it. It looked like it was like a 1 second. Like just looked and said, "Yeah, that looks good, fine." I'm glad because I thought he was way ahead on the scorecards. And Charles Rosa, this is 3 times in a row where I've seen this guy getting absolutely hammered on the ground in fights where he kind of talked and saying like he's going to win the ground battles, and like it's not even like somewhat competitive. Like of his 3, like I thought he clearly got controlled, clearly lost on the ground, and this was probably his closest one of the 3. Obviously, I'm talking about the Bryce Mitchell and the Derek Minner fights. Charles Rosa's ground, like this is a guy that's talking about, I'm going to win the title, this and that. And I'm like, dude, you're fighting for a UFC spot. Like, you need to stop talking about like a title shot. Bass is throwing out there the guys we just mentioned, Derek Minner, as a possible opponent for Damien Jackson. That'd be a lot of fun. We'd see some really good scrambles. Kind of like that'd be the Charles Rosa matchup. If you beat Charles Rosa, you now fight each other. Before that, Lupi guys, I'm going to struggle with her last name. I apologize. Lupi Godinez versus Sylvana Gomez Suarez. Absolute flawless victory from Lupi. This is a little girl that when I saw regional film of her, I was watching her coming up, LFA and Victor. What did I see her? Victor? No, LFA. When she was fighting like Vanessa Demopoulos and this and that. This is a girl that I just really, really liked. Not a great showing against Jessica Penne, though a lot of people did give her a win over Jessica Penne. This was a flawless victory. Now, her opponent, Sylvana Gomez Suarez, took the fight, I think, Wednesday. Yeah, because I would do the preview on Wednesday, and it was announced Wednesday that she took the fight then. Just absolute flawless victory. The way she was sliding into the pocket, throwing combinations, and then what I loved is she slid in the pocket, threw like 3 or 4 power hook combinations. When her opponent started to, because so many people have this natural reaction that when you start getting hit hard, you want to get it back and you want to throw hard too. It's just a natural, especially when you get hit with something big. So she came in, pop, big shots. Then when her opponent goes to throw her power shots back, she knows they're coming, and she dropped underneath. Perfect timing, gets a takedown. Good back control, and then I love the way she finished the fight. The arm, I'm so glad they gave it to her because that armbar at the end, where belly down armbar, is absolutely slick. This is what I expect from this girl. This was a great win, confidence builder, getting to win in the UFC. I really look forward to her. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna say I'm truly a believer. It's kind of unfair for me to say, "Hey, Alex Romanoff's undefeated." I don't believe in her, and I believe in this girl. Like it's different levels, obviously, but really good showing. I think she's gonna do well in the UFC. And before that, really weird matchup on paper is Charlie Octaveros versus Steve Garcia. It was fun while it lasted. Octaveros hurt Garcia 3 or 4 times. But Garcia ate some big shots, was able to recover, went to his wrestling, and Octaveros' wrestling is terrible, like ridiculously bad. And the only thing worse than his wrestling is his get-up game, his ability to scramble back up. He was, as soon as he was getting taken down, he was spending the next 5 or 6 minutes on his back. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I just got a message. Aaron Wainbaum is the guy who does the Al Iaquinta show. Aaron, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. So thanks for listening, Aaron. You're the man. It's actually a friend of mine. Sorry about that, Aaron. I'm sorry if you didn't want me to throw your last name out there. But yeah, great dude. Genius when it comes to podcasting and Aaron, do this if you're still listening. Throw your show information out there so how people can see the show and stuff. Throw it out there so people know back to Steve Garcia and Charlie Octaveros. Octaveros' get-up game was terrible. And I'm like, dude, maybe a little less time doing karate kicks and axe kicks, and a little more time in like press against the cage, working on wall walking and stuff like that. I don't know if he'll get another shot in the UFC. Anders is. It is exciting that he threw out some axe kicks. So, anyways, I have it. There was 9 fights. We covered them all. We guessed the awards. Let's do the fun stuff. I don't think we're gonna get Ben in time, but Ben will be back. We'll be previewing the next card. Let's close the show up. That's what I'm gonna have you guys do. If you guys, it seems like we have a lot of the usuals in the chat. If you guys throw out your bulls, throw out your bears, throw out any cut lists. We'll do the cut list first. So the way the cut list works is it's a way that both me and Ben, if we think that someone needs to no longer be in the UFC, need to be removed from the UFC, more not so much in the negative sense in that we want someone to lose their job, but more, hey, there's only so many people on the roster, you're holding somebody else's spot. That's the way we look at it. Usually you have to be on both mine and Ben's list to be on our official cut list. Ben's not here, so that means no one will be officially on the cut list because obviously Ben can't agree with me. But it's a good thing because I had nobody. I didn't have a single person for my cut list. To me, I have like one rule. You have to at least be on a 2-fight losing streak to be on the cut list. Charlie Octaveros was on that. He took a fight against Kevin Hunt on really short notice. That's a really tough fight. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's headlined UFCs in your debut. Really bad showing tonight. But as my man Anders just mentioned, he threw some axe kicks, and that is fun. Like, yeah, he's not a good fighter, but he did land some axe kicks. So I'm going to give you one more shot for almost knocking a guy out with an axe kick. And I know Paul Felder said it was more of like a hook kick. Yeah, it might have been more of a hook kick, but come on, the guy didn't have a good showing tonight. Let's not take too much time from him. Bass is saying he should be caught. Charles Rosa. Yeah, Charles Rosa. The problem thing with Charles Rosa is like win one, lose one, win one, lose one. He's been doing that for about 6 or 7 fights now. And yeah, I would keep Charles Rosa. Austin is cutting. So a lot of them are cutting the girl that just jumped in, Sylvana Gomes Suarez. And the girl took the fight on like 3 days' notice. So I'm giving her another stand. No, she did not have a good showing, but I'm giving her at least one more fight. Let's do the Bulls and the Bears. I'll give an extra bull just because Ben's not here, so I'll do 4 instead of 3. The way, if you've never seen the show with the Bulls and the Bears, it's a stock market reference where if something's going good, it's a bull stock, so I mean that's going up. If it's down, it's a bear stock. Let's keep it negative again. I'll do my number 3 bear. So this is you don't want to be on this list. My number 3 is Jared Gooden. Simply he missed weight, so it already started off. He's down 20% of his purse, and then he had an avenue of victory. Like he was kicking out Rainey Brown's leg. There was an avenue for victory, and he still couldn't get it. Rainey Brown was able to rally, kind of beat him up pretty well, pretty one-sided. To me, it was just not a good showing from Jared Gooden, who, by the way, was just coming off like a great knockout where people were starting to get a little excited about him. I think he showed that this is not the level. He's more of a mid to low-level card guy after that showing. My number 2, Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern was one who maybe 1 or 2 shots away from the UFC. Instead, to me, she showed major holes in her game. I also think her invincibility on the ground is now gone. When she had, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes of this fight, we'll say, give or take, 3 minutes of this fight, and she couldn't submit her. Like, the thing about Mackenzie Dern that she walked in is, like, if all she needs is 1 second on the ground, and that's it. She had about 2.5, 3 minutes, maybe more than that, of ground control, and she couldn't submit Marina Rodriguez. And actually, in effect, for about 30 seconds, it looked like she was in a submission herself. Now, I would have been shocked if Marina Rodriguez got that submission. And my number 1, oh, wow, Andre says, she had, 4 minutes, 20. Okay, so, wow, I was way off on the time. She had 4 minutes and 21 seconds of control time just in round 2. Now, I don't know how much of that is that counted, pressing someone against the cage like that control or actually on the canvas. Either way, the point is, fairly taken, Andre, that she had a long period of time on the ground and still wasn't able to find a submission over someone like Marina Rodriguez, who's not known for her submission. Now, yeah, she hasn't been submitted. I think about like Cynthia Calvillo had great success. Carlos Esparza, they had great success. They weren't able to finish her. I think that invincibility of Mackenzie Dern on the ground is gone. And my number one, I'm sticking with the BJJ. And this is not going to fight her. This is going to a fighter's coach. And this is more of a joke than anything. But Charles Rosa's BJJ coach, the guy who gave him his black belt, Ricardo Laborio, I think his stock went down a little bit because your black belt ain't looking like that good of a black belt. He's been submitted 3 in a row. So, obviously, I'm just joking. Ricardo Laborio is an absolute legend. But, Charles Rosa does not look like a black belt recently. Let's go to the Bulls. Now, this is people had a good night or a good week or just the whole event. I got 4. So, even though I dogged him and I said he didn't, I didn't dog him. So, more saying that I have a more wait and see approach with him. Alex Romanoff, he still had a fantastic night. Like, he had a favorable matchup, and he did what you should do in a favorable matchup, and that's just absolutely maul a guy. That's what he did against Jared Vanderaa. He made my Bulls. Guys, if you have Bulls and Bears, throw them out there. I'm sorry. I apologize. I missed Austin's. Austin has some good ones. Austin said his number 3 is the judges. They were just some really weird tonight. Number 2 is Gooden for missing weight. And got straight up worked. And number 1, Tim Elliott's corner. That's a good one, because that might have cost him a fight. I don't know if he would have won anyways, but yeah, good call. But we're gonna disagree about his corner in a second. But I agree with what you're saying. As far as now, we're going to the Bulls. So Austin, let's see your Bulls. So my number 4 is Alex Rowe. My number 3, Maria. I'm messing up. Agapova, I believe is how you say her last name. Really good showing. She was one of only 2 underdogs to win on this card. Got a club and sub victory. Also got her name pronounced correctly. It seemed like I'm thinking I'm starting to learn it. John Anik and the crew started to learn it. So really good for her. My number 2. Now, this is where I'm going to disagree with Austin. Yeah, James Krause did not have a good cornering tonight. Did not have a good showing. But James Krause is on my Bulls list for one reason and one reason alone. He almost took a fight yesterday. He wasn't planning on taking it. So he's going to be on my Bulls list. And also I'm going to give a shout out to Chris Curtis. They're both making my Bulls list. And neither one of those guys fought tonight because as of yesterday, early yesterday morning, neither one of these guys are going to fight. The whole Phil Hawes, Deron Wynn did not make weight or did not weigh in. Chris Curtis volunteered to step up, was going to get in the UFC, going to fight Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes doesn't want that fight. But Chris Curtis showed, 1, huge balls to take a fight on one day's notice. 2, against a freaking killer like Phil Hawes. But agreed to it. Phil Hawes says, no, I'm not fighting a guy that I don't know about on 24 hours notice. And then James Krause is like, hey, I'll do it, and I'll move up a weight. And this would be his second time in his career doing that on 1 day's notice. The commission squashed that, didn't allow these guys to do it. But just the balls of James Krause and Chris Curtis to willing to fight another badass mofo like James Krause willing to do that, Chris Curtis willing to do that, James Krause on 1 day's notice. Shout out to those guys. They're bulls. To me, I think the respect of the MMA community towards these 2 guys went through the roof. Before I give my number 1, let me read Anders. He has some Bulls. So these are ones had a great night. Marina Rodriguez obviously won the main event. Great striking, pretty good grappling. I would say obviously not offensive grappling in the sense where we didn't see her offensive grappling, but just to survive with Mackenzie Dern, which I know I focused a lot on Mackenzie Dern when we were talking about the main event. I hope you guys didn't take that I glossed over. One of the things I really wanted to stress was like how much credit we need to give Marina Rodriguez for surviving on the ground with Mackenzie Dern. So yeah, I agree with that. Good call, Anders. Number 2. Agapova, patient, strike, speed, accuracy, finishing instinct. Good point. Like not only the way she put her down, but the fact that put her down, got right on the choke right away, seized the moment. Good call. And Randy Brown, slick feints. he did trash talk. We didn't get to hear it. There was the ESPN censoring crew was on it. Sick jab. Lack of volume though. Good kick. good kicks. Yeah, good call. Actually, I like all those, Anders. Those are some good ones, brother. Let's see. I see Austin had a couple. Let's see. His number one, so he's going from the top. Marina, he's going with the main event too. Marina Rodriguez. Not a lot of people had picked her. That's a good call. She was an underdog. And he's going number two. Agape coming back and doing what she needed to win. Back some fans. Win some back fans. Number three. Grappling scrambles. Yeah, we had a lot of grappling, some good scrambles. So good call for him. Austin's number one and number two on his bulls were both the underdogs. There was two underdogs tonight that won, and they agree. So my number one, this is the number one that I think we're all going to be agreement on, and this is why when Felipe Coloris was walking down to the cage, the UFC talked about a story, and this is why this person is going to be number one of my bulls. Felipe Coloris' last fight, he was walking down his cage, and they mentioned that his mom was battling cancer. Fast forward to this fight, he's walking down the cage, and they tell the same thing, that his mom was battling cancer in his last fight, but luckily it sounds like that she whooped cancer's ass. So my number one bull, her son didn't get a victory, but she got an even more important victory. So I'm going to go with Felipe Coloris' mom for kicking cancer's ass, and I think you guys will all agree with that she's the ultimate winner tonight. So way to go, Felipe Coloris' mom, and anybody else who's obviously suffering cancer, do the same thing, whoop cancer's ass. As I'm sure every one of us has had people battle cancer in our lives that we care about. So let's give it up, Felipe Coloris' mom. You are the number one bull, the winner. We mean that as a compliment if you see this. Which I don't know why Felipe Coloris' mom will see this. But if she does, way to go for whooping cancer's ass. There you guys have it. Let's give the grade. I'm just going to go with a C. Nothing really stand out. The main event was good, not great. I mean, the Godinez is a belly down armbar was my favorite part of the entire night. Agape was showing was really good, but overall just an okay card. So I'm giving it a C. You guys throw out what your grades were, and then I got to do the hardest part, and that is give our listener of the evening. I know we gave it to Andre last time, but Andre, we needed you to get the awards for us, so I'm not giving it to Andre this time, but I'm going to go with our listener of the night. We have the usuals. We have Austin. Austin was fantastic all night. Bass, obviously, all night. You guys are always great. Big T up in here, great. Daniel House, great as always. And by the way, I gave it to Andre last week because we had two Brazilians in the main event. We had two Brazilians in the main event again tonight. But I'm going to go with my man Anders Rotama. I'm sorry, but he had some really good calls on his bulls. I think he had a really good showing. So our listener of the night is Anders. Way to go, Anders. But overall, guys, there you have it. There's our show. We recapped all 9 fights. We'll be back. Me and Ben will be back covering next week card. We have, oh my God, who do we have? It's like the worst main event I can think. It's Holly Holm fell out, and it's Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont. That is actually headlining a UFC card. Is Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Guys, if you like this show, we want to keep getting the views up. Me and Ben, we don't do this. We don't beg for. We don't say, hey, get us so many this and that. But thank you so much, guys. Make sure you like this. Thank you guys for commenting the whole show. Please share it. Please subscribe. We have more shows coming to the Sherdog YouTube. We have a brand new. I don't know if I can announce it. Sorry, we got a big name in the MMA world who just joined the Sherdog team, and most of his content, as far as I know, is going to be on the Sherdog YouTube page. So make sure you look forward to that. I don't want to announce it just in case we can't, but the Sherdog YouTube is going to continue to grow and get even better. So guys, please subscribe, like, do all that, guys. Thanks, you guys in the chat. You guys are all awesome. I love you all, you guys. Thanks for being respectful to everybody and having such a great discussion. Until next time, guys, we'll be back this week to preview next week's card.